today in these online briefings of the 20th meetings of the Chemical Review Committee of the Rotterdam Convention and the Persistent Organic Pollutants Review Committee of the Stockholm Convention. My name is Mario Giarto and I work with the Rotterdam Convention Secretariat. And this afternoon, we will start with a briefing on the 20th meeting of the Chemical Review Committee. The Chemical Review Committee, also known as the CRC, is a subsidiary body on the Rotterdam Convention and has been set up to review notifications of final regulatory action, FRAs, taken by parties on a chemical against Annex II criteria. As per Article 5 of the Rotterdam Convention, each party that has adopted such a regulatory action shall notify the Secretariat in writing of such action. And when the Secretariat has received at least one notification from each of two prior informed consent regions regarding a particular chemical, then after reviewing that it has verified it has met the requirements of Annex 1, it shall forward the notifications to the Chemical Review Committee. Also, as per Article 6 of the Convention, any party that is a developing country or a country with an economy in transition and that is experiencing problems caused by a severely hazardous pesticide formulation under conditions of use in its territory may propose to the Secretariat the listing of this pesticide formulation in Annex 3. Therefore, the committee will also review proposals of SHPFs against Annex 4, Part 3 criteria. After the committee has reviewed notifications and proposals, and if it concludes that the criteria has been met, it might recommend to the Conference of the Parties the listing of chemicals that meet that criteria to be included in Annex 3 to the Convention. Following that recommendation, the committee will also develop draft decision guidance documents, DGDs, for those chemicals recommended for listing under the Convention. The committee consists of 31 government-designated experts from the 5 UN regions, and the CRC meetings are open to observers, including parties and observers to the Rotterdam Convention. The next meeting of the committee, its 20th, will take place from the 17th until the 20th of September 2024 at the headquarters of FAO in Rome, Italy. Prior to the official meeting of the committee, pre-meetings will be held on Monday, 16 September to conclude the intersessional work conducted by task groups. The meetings of the committee are taking place face-to-face, including the pre-meetings. And the meeting will be chaired by Ms. Noluzuku Wayi from South Africa. The work of the committee is conducted in English only. The final registration deadline for attending the meeting of the committee is on the 30th of August, and all related information, including meeting documents, are available on the website that is indicated at the bottom of this slide. Specific information regarding this meeting is available on the links that you can see on the screen now, including the provisional agenda, annotated agenda, the scenario note for the meeting, and the tentative schedule. For its next meeting, the committee is facing a substantive amount of work with quite an important number of chemicals to be reviewed. That doesn't mean that the committee will have enough time to conclude the review of all the chemicals, but nevertheless, the Bureau has decided to include the notifications that have been received in the last year or so to be considered for its next meeting. From this slide, you can see that After the opening of the meeting and an agreement on the organizational matters, the committee will start working on technical issues. And towards the end of the meeting, the committee will also agree on the venue and dates of its next meeting, other matters, adoption of the report, and the closure of the meeting. In the next few slides, I will then go specifically into the technical matters that will be under the agenda of this next meeting. First is the finalization of two decision guidance documents, DGDs. The first one is for chlorpyrifos, which is a pesticide that has been recommended to be listed in Annex 3 after the committee reviewed the criteria of Annex 2 at its last meeting, CRC 19, based on notifications of final regulatory action submitted from the European Union, Malaysia, and Sri Lanka. Following that recommendation, the committee developed a draft decision guidance document during the intersessional period, just a few months before its next meeting, and this document is expected to be finalized in a few weeks at the 20th meeting of the committee. Also important to mention that chlorpyrifos is also under consideration for listing under the Stockholm Convention. The second decision guidance document that will be finalized at the meeting is regarding mercury, which has already been listed in Annex 3 by the Rotterdam Convention as a pesticide, but the notifications that have been reviewed by the committee are now addressing mercury and its uses as an industrial chemical. Based on regulatory actions reviewed by the committee at its last meeting, submitted by Colombia and the European Union, the committee recommended its listing in Annex 3 and then developed a draft decision guidance document in this intersessional period, and that document will be finalized at CRC 20. Also important to mention that mercury is also covered under the Minamata Convention. Once these decision guidance documents are finalized at CRC 20, they will be forwarded together with a recommendation for their listing to the next conference of the parties to be held in 2025. And before going into the chemicals that would be on the review at the meeting, I would like to share with you what is the approach that was followed by the committee to prioritize its work at its upcoming meeting. Due to the heavy workload, there were several intersessional task groups that did not prepare task group reports for notifications that, following a preliminary review by the Secretariat and the Bureau, seem highly unlikely to meet the criteria of Annex 2 to the Convention. This is an approach that is in line with the procedures established in the CRC handbook, and those procedures set out an approach for those notifications of final regulatory actions to ban or severely restrict a chemical, and those who appear to meet the criteria of Annex 2, the Bureau will then decide to establish intersessional task groups to be created prior to the meetings of the committee. An important criteria for the Bureau to make this decision on the approach to follow is to determine whether intersessional work would be conducted based on the response by the notifying party to specific questions of the notification form, namely section 2.4, where parties will need to indicate if the final regulatory action was based on a risk or hazard evaluation. If a notification indicates that the answer gives us an answer no, then no intersessional task group will be established for that particular notification. But even for those notifications that did not go to intersessional work, the committee will still need to conclude which criteria of Annex 2 are met and which not. To support the committee for those notifications that did not go through intersessional work, a short summary of the results of the Bureau's preliminary review is available in the document indicated in this slide. So you will see a short summary of notifications that were not included in the in-sessional work. During this next meeting, if the committee has any doubts about notifications that did not go in sessional work, the committee could agree to put those notifications into in sessional work at its next round. Now, what is exactly the in-sessional work that is carried out by the committee? In-sessional task groups do a preliminary review of notifications of final regulatory action. They are led by a task group drafter and a chair that prepare an initial task group report. This work takes place 4 to 6 months before the face-to-face meeting of the committee. And once the report is available, task group members and observers are invited to submit comments. Those reports are available on the website of the convention. Once those comments are received, the drafter and chair of each in-sessional task group will revise the report and post a final draft before the meeting of the committee for final comments. During the pre-meeting of the committee, which this time will take place on the 16th of September, the comments received by partisan observers will be addressed by the in-sessional task group. And after that, those task group reports will be presented as a conference room paper for review and discussion by the committee at its official meeting. All of the task group reports from the current in-sessional work are available on the website indicated in the slide. Additionally, if you would like to see additional information on the working procedures and policy guidance of the committee, that document is also available on the website. It's important to mention that the in-sessional task group does not replace the full review conducted by the committee at its meeting. It is just a way to enhance the efficiency of the committee and participations of the members and observers before they meet in September. So each chemical will be discussed in detail and fully during the meeting based on the task group reports that were prepared in the sessionally. Now, looking at the list of chemicals that are included in the agenda of CRC 20, we have first notifications of final regulatory action for new notifications that have gone partially or full intersessional work. First, we have hexachlorobenzene, which is already listed in the Rotterdam Convention in the category of pesticide, and now will be considered for listing as an industrial chemical. At a previous CRC meeting, CRC 5, a notification from Canada for hexachlorobenzene was found to meet criteria of Annex 2. And for its next meeting, the committee will review a notification from Australia. This notification has an in-sessional task group report. The second chemical, which is considered as an industrial chemical for the next meeting, is pentachlorobenzene. Also, a notification from Canada was found to meet criteria at the 7th meeting of the committee. And for CRC 20, a notification from Australia will be reviewed. The task group report for that chemical is also available. Both chemicals, hexachlorobenzene and pentachlorobenzene, are included in Annexes A and C of the Stockholm Convention. Then we will look at the notifications of final regulatory action for pesticides that have also gone through in-sessional work. First, we have chlorpyrifos methyl, which is used as a pesticide. For its next meeting, the committee will review notifications submitted by the European Union, for which there is an in-sessional task group report available, and notification from Chile. Another pesticide that will be considered by the committee is dichlorvos, which is also a pesticide mainly used as an acaricide and insecticide. And for this next meeting, the committee will review notifications from the European Union. There is a task group report available for that notification, and there is information available from Malawi and Serbia, but in that case, those notifications did not undergo in-sessional work. Continuing with the notifications for chemicals under the pesticide category, we have paraquat and paraquat dichloride. At CRC 18, the committee recommended the listing of these chemicals based on notifications submitted from Malaysia and Mozambique, and the respective decision guidance document was reviewed and adopted at the CRC meeting last year. After that, there were new notifications submitted for paraquat coming from the Sahelian pesticides member countries. And these are countries that take decisions together on the registration of pesticides on a regular basis. Hence, the notifications submitted by these 7 parties, namely Burkina Faso, Cabo Verde, Chad, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, and Senegal, all relate to the same final regulatory action. For those notifications, there is a task group report available. An additional notification was submitted by Togo, for which also a report from the in-sessional work is available. And there were other notifications for the same chemicals submitted by Chile and Turkey, for which in-sessional work was not undertaken. Next is Profenofos, also used as a pesticide, and the CRC will review notifications from Malaysia, for which there is an in-sessional task group report available, and notification submitted by Turkey. This next final regulatory action are for chemicals that did not go through in-sessional work. First is benzidine and its salts. The notifications were received from Turkey for the industrial chemical category. Previously, the committee reviewed a notification from Canada, which was found to meet criteria, and that was at the 12th meeting of the committee. There is also chlorpyrifos, in this case, submitted in a notification in the category of pesticide. The new notification was submitted by Chile, and that will be reviewed by the committee at its next meeting. While in previous meetings, notifications from the European Union, Malaysia, and Sri Lanka were found to meet criteria. That was at CRC 19. And with that, the committee developed a draft decision guidance document. And as I mentioned earlier, that decision document will be finalized at CRC 20. Continuing with notifications that did not go through in-sessional work, but they are included in the agenda of CRC 20 is Ciexatin, also under the pesticide category. At CRC 2, a notification from Canada was found to meet criteria of Annex 2. And for the next meeting, this CRC will review notifications submitted from Turkey. Then we have dicofol. Previously, the committee had reviewed notifications from the European Union and the Kingdom of the Netherlands, which both were found to meet criteria by CRC 8 and CRC 2, respectively. For this next meeting, the committee will review notifications from Chile, Peru, Switzerland, and Turkey. Then we have benzoate, which is also submitted in regulatory actions submitted by Malaysia and Turkey in the pesticide category. 3 more pesticides that will be reviewed by the committee, if time allows, at CRC 20 are Prothiophos, also in the category of pesticide. And in this case, the notifications to be reviewed were submitted by Malaysia and Turkey. There is also Quinalfos. And again, those notifications were submitted by Malaysia and Turkey. And finally, we have Zinev, and notifications to be reviewed by the committee were submitted by Ecuador and Turkey. Again, these last few notifications that I mentioned did not go through intersessional work. And then we have a list of notifications that have been considered by prior CRC meetings, but no consensus reached. Those are carbaryl, chlorphenimphos, methylathione, thiodicarb, and ethione. These notifications have been submitted by the same party, Mozambique, but since no agreement has been reached, the committee has decided to defer the discussions for its future meeting. In the meantime, the committee requested the Secretariat to seek specific information from the notifying party that could support the discussions and deliberations of the committee. And now we go into the proposals for the inclusion of severely hazardous pesticide formulations. As I mentioned earlier, any party that is a developing country or a country with an economy in transition and that is experiencing problems caused by this type of formulations may propose its listing in Annex 3. In this case, these 4 formulations were proposed by the same party, which is Lao People's Democratic Republic. This country carried out a monitoring pesticide survey on SHPFs, including a field monitoring survey, which showed that there were several pesticide poisoning cases reported, including human health incidents. And based on those results, the country prepared the proposal for severely hazardous pesticides formulations. So this will also be considered by the committee at its 20th meeting, and a task group report is also available for these 4 pesticide formulations. Under other matters, once the committee concludes its technical work, there is a discussion on an update of the indicative list of substances covered by the listing of PFOA, its salts, and PFOA-related compounds in Annex 3 to the Convention. The Conference of the Parties of the Rotterdam Convention at its 10th meeting listed PFOA, its salts, and PFOA-related compounds in Annex 3 to the Convention, and requested the committee to prepare this indicative list in consultation with the members of the committee, and an updated list will be available at the meeting of the committee in September. There will also be a summary of the activities undertaken by the Secretariat to facilitate effective participation in the work of the committee, including the orientation workshop for new members of the committee. That workshop took place in March this year. And the committee will also agree on the activities that need to be undertaken for its next intersessional period based on the amount of notifications that have been received by the conclusion of CRC 20. And in this slide, you can see what is the tentative schedule of CRC 20, starting on Tuesday, 17 September at 9:30 in the morning. So following the opening and agreement on our organizational matters, the committee will start its technical work for the morning of the first day, the finalization or discussion of the draft DGTs is expected to take place during the morning of the first day. And in the afternoon, the committee will take up the review of the first final regulatory actions that might also lead into the establishment of contact groups to work during the evening. On Wednesday, the committee will start the discussion of the proposals of SHPFs. And during the afternoon, they will continue with the review of notifications of FRAs of the pesticide category that went through in sessional work. On Thursday morning, the committee is expected to review the notifications for chemicals that did not go through in sessional work. And then in the afternoon of that day, the committee will try to take up the notifications that have been previously discussed, but for which no agreement has been reached. Those are the notifications submitted by Mozambique. And then on Friday in the morning, the committee will consider the results of the contact or drafting groups and the draft decisions that might be prepared by them before concluding on the venue and the date of its next meeting, other matters. And finally, in the afternoon of Friday, the committee will review and adopt the report of the meeting and then close. With that, I conclude my part of the presentation. Now, my colleague Sharon will follow with the POPRC, and at the end, we will go back to you with questions and answers. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mario. My name is Sharon Rivera. I'm a program officer in the BRS Secretariat, and I'm going to provide this overview on the forthcoming 20th meeting of the POPs Review Committee. So just a brief background on the work of the Persistent Organic Pollutants Review Committee. The POPRC is a subsidiary body of the Stockholm Convention, and it has a similar structure as that of the CRC. It's composed of 31 experts nominated by national governments from the 5 UN regions. So POPRC is tasked to review chemicals proposed for listing in Annex A, B, and or C by a party to the Stockholm Convention. And the process for submitting such proposal, for reviewing such chemicals, and for making recommendations to the Conference of the Parties is outlined in Article 8 of the Convention, while the information requirements on the criteria are contained in Annexes D, E, and F to the Convention. POPRC also undertakes other technical work as may be assigned to it by the Conference of the Parties. So the meetings of the POPRC are open to observers. The POPRC meeting itself is a meeting among the 31 government-designated experts, and the observers are those parties to the Stockholm Convention that are also considered as observers and admitted to the meetings of the Stockholm Convention. So the forthcoming meeting of POPRC will be held back-to-back with the CRC 20 from 23 to 27 September 2024 at the FAO headquarters in Rome. There will be an online pre-meeting on 11 September 2024 from 1 to 4 p.m. CEST. So if you have already registered for POPRC 20, you should have already received an invitation to attend the online pre-meeting as well. And if you have not received such email and the link to the online pre-meeting, kindly indicate your name in the chat or send me an email, and I will follow up and send you the invitation to the online pre-meeting. POPRC 20 will be held purely face-to-face, and there will be no opportunity for online connection, even for the side events that are being organized at the sidelines of the meeting. The registration deadline for observers was originally set for 16 August, but has been extended up to the end of this week, up to 30 August 2024. POPRC 20 will be chaired by Mr. Peter Dawson of New Zealand. And more information on the meeting, including the meeting documents, are available on the website of POPRC, which you can see on the screen. The meeting will be organized also in the 6 UN official languages, while the contact groups that will be meeting either in the evenings or when there is no plenary meeting ongoing will be purely in English. Now, some key documents for the meeting are the provisional agenda contained in Working Document 1, Rev 1, and the annotated agenda, which is contained in Document 1, Rev 1, Add 1. You will also find the scenario note for the meeting in Information Document 1 and the tentative schedule for the meeting, which is in Information Document 2. This is a screenshot of the provisional agenda for POPRC 20, and as you can see, the meeting will be taking up a number of technical items, as well as other items, such as the rotation of the membership of POPRC, which is agenda item 3, and also the work plan for the intersessional period between POPRC 20 and 21. This is a screenshot of information document 2, which contains the tentative schedule for the meeting. And just to mention that this is, of course, subject to change and will be adjusted depending on how discussions progress. So plenary will start on Monday, 23 September at 9:30 a.m. And it will continue throughout the first day. Contact group meetings will hopefully be able to commence its work by the evening of the first day, following the constitution or establishment of the contact groups. And the plenary will thereafter continue on the second day, Tuesday, 24 September, after which contact group meetings will proceed. So there will be no plenary while contact groups are meeting. The plenary is anticipated to meet again on Friday morning, during which it will take up the work plan for the intersessional period between the 20th and 21st meetings of the committee, and also take up other matters. It is anticipated that the report of the meeting will be adopted in the afternoon of the last day. Just to mention as well that there are a number of side events planned during the course of the week, and more information on the side events is available on the website of POPRC. Now on to the technical items that will be discussed in POPRC 20. The first is the consideration of the draft risk management evaluation for chlorpyrifos. You see here the relevant documents for this agenda item, including document 2, which contains the draft risk management evaluation for chlorpyrifos. This chemical is widely used as an agricultural pesticide and is proposed for listing in Annex A. Just for by way of background, it was in POPRC 17 when the proposal from the EU was first taken up. POPRC 17 was satisfied that the screening criteria in Annex D was met, and thereafter established an intersessional working group to develop a draft risk profile, inviting parties and observers to submit Annex E information. At POPRC 18, the draft risk profile was considered and an intersessional working group was established to revise the draft risk profile. However, POPRC 18 was unable to reach consensus on whether chlorpyrifos, as a result of its long-range environmental transport would lead to significant adverse effects on human health and the environment, such that global action was warranted. And so POPRC 18, because of this lack of consensus, decided to defer the decision on the draft risk profile to POPRC 19, and also revise the draft risk profile further for consideration. Last year at POPRC 19, the draft risk profile for chlorpyrifos was adopted. With regard to the proposed action, the committee will consider whether or not it will adopt, with any amendments, the draft risk management evaluation. And if it does so, then if POPRC 20 adopts the recommendation to list chlorpyrifos, then chlorpyrifos will also be considered at COP12, the 12th meeting of the Conference of the Parties next year. Now, on the item on consideration of recommendations to the Conference of the Parties, we have two chemicals that were actually already recommended for listing in Annex A with specific exemptions by POPRC 19 last year. The first is chlorinated paraffins with carbon chain lengths in the range C14 to 17 and chlorination levels at or exceeding 45% chlorine by weight. You see here the relevant meeting documents, including working document 3. So this chemical, chlorinated paraffins, was actually already recommended by POPRC 19 for listing. However, the meeting then had no consensus on the chemical identity, and intersessional work focused on specifying the chemical identity and further strengthening the recommendations to the Conference of the Parties. You will see here on the slide the list of recommended specific exemptions for chlorinated paraffins. And the committee will be considering or reviewing the draft assessment of the information provided and consider including such in an addendum to the risk management evaluation on chlorinated paraffins that was already adopted by POPRC 19. The committee is also expected to consider specifying the chemical identity and strengthening its recommendations to the COP on the listing of the chemical. So this is the first of the two chemicals that have already been recommended for consideration at COP12. And the second pertains to long-chain perfluorocarboxylic acids, their salts and related compounds. The main working document is document 4, and you also have information document 8. So as mentioned, POPRC 19 recommended to list long-chain PFCAs, and the intersessional work focused on further strengthening the recommendation to the COP on the listing of the chemical, while information on the presence of long-chain PFCAs were also collected. By way of background, these chemicals were nominated by Canada for listing and first considered in POPRC 17. At POPRC 18, the committee adopted the risk profile for long-chain PFCAs and established an intersessional working group that prepared the draft risk management evaluation based on information submitted by parties and observers. And you will see on this slide the recommended specific exemptions for long-chain PFCAs, their salts and related compounds. The committee at its 20th meeting is expected to review the draft assessment of the information provided and consider including it in an addendum to the risk management evaluation on long-chain PFCAs that was adopted by POPRC 19, and also to consider strengthening its recommendation to COP12 on listing the chemical with specific exemptions, taking into account the information set out. Now on to other technical matters that will be taken up by POPRC 20. We have on the table a proposal by Switzerland for listing polyhalogenated dibenzopidioxins and dibenzofurans in Annex C. The relevant documents are on the slide, specifically Working Document 5, which contains the proposal from Switzerland. And this includes polybrominated dibenzopidioxins and furans and mixed polybrominated chlorinated dibenzopidioxins and furans. These chemicals are not produced per se, but are unintentionally generated in thermal processes. And as per the process set out, as per the procedure rather set out in Article 8 of the Stockholm Convention, the Secretariat's verification of whether the proposal contains the information specified in Annex D to the Stockholm Convention is set out in Information Document 4 on the verification of the proposal. So at POPRC 20, the committee is expected to consider the information provided by the submitter and to decide whether it is satisfied that the proposal fulfills the requirements of Article 8 of and Annex D to the Convention, and if in the affirmative and it decides the proposal fulfills such requirements, a work plan for preparing a draft risk profile pursuant to paragraph 6 of Article 8 of the Convention will be developed and agreed on. The next item is on the identification of POPs in stockpiles, products and articles in use and in wastes. Again, the relevant meeting documents are on the slide, and this item stems from a decision by the Conference of the Parties in 2023 as contained in SC 11/12, wherein the COP requested POPRC to consider options for identifying POPs in stockpiles, products and articles in use and in waste, and issues related to the production, import and export of products and articles containing POPs, and to report on these matters at its 12th meeting. So the report on this was prepared by the Intersessional Working Group as contained in Information Document 9, and a compilation of comments relating to the report is set out in Information Document 10. These two information documents will be issued this week and made available on the meeting website. Now on to the agenda item on the evaluation and review of brominated diphenyl ethers pursuant to paragraph 2 of parts 4 and 5 of Annex 8 to the Convention. So you have the relevant meeting documents on the screen, and just by way of background, this stems from a decision of the Conference of the Parties in its 10th meeting, which is SC 10/8, wherein the Secretariat was tasked to collect and analyze information on progress made by parties towards eliminating brominated diphenyl ethers contained in articles and the continued need for the specific exemptions for those chemicals. It was actually at the 6th meeting of the Conference of the Parties wherein the COP adopted a process for the evaluation and review of BDEs. And in that process, the Secretariat was tasked with analyzing information submitted by parties and other pertinent and credible information submitted by experts with advice from relevant experts such as members of the POPRC, for consideration by the COP to assist it in conducting the evaluation and review of PDEs. So the first two evaluation and review processes of BDEs were conducted at the 8th and 10th meetings of the COPs. This will be the third evaluation and review of BDEs in accordance.
I know, Sharon.
What is? Emily, could you block him?
Yes, how about you?
Thank you. Fuck.
We'd like to apologize
I
for this.
know, Sharon.
Emily, could you block this? I don't know if that's
Yeah, I wonder whether it's like I don't know. That's super strange, but yeah, I spell. Hopefully, it won't come back.
yeah. Oh, we really apologize for that. We sent the invitation only to registrants to this meeting. We don't know what was that was all about. But let's continue with more interesting things. BDE. So the proposed action by POPRC 20 is for the committee to review and provide comments on the draft report prepared by the Secretariat as contained in Information Document 11. Finally, the last technical item that will be taken up by POPRC 20 is on the indicative list of substances covered by the listing of PFOA and by the listing of PFHXS. So if you recall at the POPRC 19 meeting last year, there were two documents, or rather 3 documents issued on the indicative list of substances covered by the listing of PFOA and by the listing of PFHXS. And these two lists have been updated and are now contained in Information Documents 12 and 13. And these documents have been issued in response to the requests by the Conference of the Parties in their meetings, the 9th, 10th, and 11th meeting, where they requested the Secretariat to compile, in consultation with POPRC, information submitted by parties and others to establish indicative lists of substances covered by the listing of these 2 chemicals, to make them available on the convention website and to update them periodically. Therefore, these lists are actually living documents, and it's expected that they will be updated further in the upcoming periods. And as Mario mentioned, a similar list for PFOA will also be presented at the 20th meeting of the CRC. So for this item, the committee is expected to provide comments on those lists at the meeting or to submit them at the next period, following the meeting of POPRC. So thank you very much for your attention, and I think we can open the floor now for any questions on the 2 presentations. Okay, thank you, Hans. So we hope the presentations were very clear, such that there are no questions for either me and Mario. But in case you do have any questions, feel free to send an email either to myself, to Kay for POPRC, and for CRC. You can also write a message to Mario and or Andrea. Mario, you have anything?
No, nothing else from my side. Thank you everyone for joining us and looking forward to any questions if you would like to address them by email. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.